Okay.
What page are you starting on?
60.
Debbie Smith, the director, is going to be presenting.
63. All right, actually, everybody on page 63? All right. So our budget actually is pretty much the same as it was last year. As far as personnel, we do have one new employee that was hired, our housing rehab coordinator. That's on page 64. We are actually still waiting to fill a community development specialist position, and then the ECD specialist will not be in our budget for next year.
Which one won't be?
That was actually Chris Groner's position.
So that's been moved to
Office of Administration, I think, or
yeah. Got a mental block on that.
so we've actually asked as far as the operating expenses for the same appropriations balances that we had last year. This budget, I guess I didn't realize, was until 10/30 of 2024. Where you do see balances, we all actually have expenses for November and December. So most of that money will be expended there. But pretty much everything that we had last year is the same thing that is in the budget this year.
Any questions?
Recently an audit.
OIG audit?
Yeah.
All right, so that audit actually was from fiscal year 2015 to 18. OIG came in. It was a different administration, and it actually took this long to actually kind of, I guess, settle on a lot of the different things. So the city won't be affected as far as paying anything back. There were the managers for code enforcement, because his timesheet was not signed by a supervisor, and he didn't have detailed information as far as the different things that he was doing. That was something that was ineligible. We also had a code enforcement officer that was out of the area. I believe that was maybe, I want to say, $1,000-something odd dollars. The manager's position was, do you remember offhand? 80 or 90, 80 something or $90,000, I'm not sure. But what HUD has allowed us to do is to reduce what we will receive in CDBG, and so for our fiscal 2025 allocation, it'll be reduced by that amount. So the city won't be affected as far as having to pay any funding back.
How much will it be reduced by?
Is it 90? Do you guys know offhand? Is it 90? 113? 15,000 maybe? I don't remember. I would have to get the report. I'm not real sure. I don't remember. But that was from, and then there was some police. It was supposed to be neighborhood policing. And so there were, I guess, logs for time when some of the police officers were absent, but there were no logs that they could actually find. And so actually we've been working with this OIG audit for several years now, and so actually what we will be reimbursing HUD back is actually way lower than what they originally wanted. They wanted actually some millions of dollars.
Thank you.
Our CDBG fund had been getting lower and lower, though.
It has, but we just felt it'd be easier to reduce the CDBG funding than to ask the city of Erie to take it out of general fund.
What is our HUD funding at
this year? Like 4 million or 3.6 or something?
Last year, I think it was 2.9.
2.9. So your office is pretty much, is it doing, what else is it doing beyond HUD?
You mean as far as CDBG,
Like,
home?
what is it doing beyond administering HUD funds?
We have a fair grant. We're able to do, in previous years, we used to do the RAPP grant. There was EDI grants that we had.
So this is some past tense.
They're not, we just recently, we have a fair grant now. We have ARC grant that we just actually completed. There's a grants department, so the grants don't come through our department. Some of the other grants don't come through our department. So we have CDBG, we have ESG, we have Home Investment Partnership, we have the homeless grant that will be administering. So those are the federal grants that we have.
Okay, so you listed off the 3 different HUD grants. You had Home, CBDG, what was the third one?
Emergency Solutions.
Emergency Solutions. And those combined for, you said, those
No.
3 combined?
No, so 2.9, we got 2.9 for CDBG last year. We got 960-something thousand for home.
Right.
And for ESG, we got maybe $270-something thousand. And then,
So 4 million-ish.
yeah, probably about that.
Personally, and this isn't any reflection on you, this isn't, some of the stuff where you point out that you used to have, I'm worried about redundancies in administrative costs for our city government. I'm curious if we're still aligned as efficiently as we need to be with these additional grant administrators in other departments. But I do have some big concerns just in change of political environment. You know, last time we saw this upcoming presidential administration, we saw billions of dollars cut from HUD. Mm-hmm. And that seems to be the promise of our Department of Government Efficiency. And if we're still running this department at the cost of $1.3 million to administer $3 million,
Well, our funding actually comes from HUD, the administration part of it. The city doesn't. The city only we reimburse the city, and the city only charges us for whatever we may do that is not part of CDBG, Home, ESG, or the Home ARP.
like, and if I recall from a previous conversation, it's like 80. Like when we did our HUD funding, it was like about 81% of your budget comes from reimbursements from HUD. I think it
may be more than that.
Okay, maybe a little more than that. I'm trying to recollect from what was it, like April? I know you're living this, and I just pop in and talk to you twice a year. So you know. But this is, if we're talking about $4 million in administration of funding and being administered, that I believe is going to be cut, and that we lost a couple $100,000 or $190,000 or something, so it's going to be even less. And the funds to manage this department are $1.3 million.
I don't know about 1.3. Well,
$1.294 million.
okay.
And so I'm not suggesting it changes. But I'm suggesting that we need to maybe reflect on some of these things and tighten in and try to figure out how this office is done as HUD funding continues to decrease and as responsibilities have been taken out of this office, that it may be time to look at some organizational
Well, I'll just say
issues.
this, as far as the HUD funding, we do all the things that are required by HUD, so it's not like there's a cushion there where we're not doing things. HUD actually has individuals that work for them that may do environmental review. Mm-hmm. One person would do that. One person would do maybe just CDBG, or a couple people. One person would do ESG. One person would do monitoring. So and there are other things that are involved with HUD. So the things that we do in our office that we get reimbursed for are things that are required by HUD. And so when you talk about maybe trying to decrease or trying to, go back on funding or whatever, we're doing what we're supposed to do that is required by HUD. And so I guess I look at the fact when you say some of the other grants that are not in our office anymore. So those were part of the local match. And so now they won't be part of what the city would pay. Our funding, we pay for what we get from HUD and the people that work in our office. work on different things, and HUD funding is not an easy funding to administer.
Oh, I've seen the paperwork. It's wild.
It is.
I'm trying to do this as politely as I can without being anything too critical. I'm worried that the funding for this has decreased over years. I'm worried that we're in a political climate where it was billions of dollars that were slashed from 2017 to 2020 on this, or 2017 and 2018. We're in the same political climate, but with more enthusiasm maybe. And the costs for this department have gone up with some of those things being, we're up in 3 years with less money. We're up a couple $100,000. These are pitching in on margins.
We do have a surplus of admin money that we haven't expended over the years, so that would actually kind of cover that. I don't think we have enough employees, so.
I agree with you. When I was at the front desk, so many people came in and asked for your services. So you had to, Veronica and Shateria and yourself, spending the time with all of these people, assisting them. And I really felt the need that there should be more people, to tell you the truth. You spent a lot of time with them.
And also, I want to say this also, as far as I guess when you look at the salaries and things, I think we're actually underpaid. I mean, if you look at other communities that administer HUD funding, they get paid a whole lot more than what we get paid.
And there's a couple mid-year raises that we don't see on our paperwork. But if people recall getting the updates on those that happened, I think there was at least 2 or 3 of them. I'm just concerned that at some point it may be more expensive to run this office than the money we're even receiving. That's if it's to manage $4 million and it costs 1.3, and the 1.4 or the 4 million goes down, and this goes up. That at some point we're going to be spending $2 million to administer $2 million. And I know that's
we're only allowed to take 20% of CDBG. 10% of home and 7.5% of ESG. So that's not a whole lot of money.
Yeah. Oh, I can't remember. And how much of our HUD money went to paving this year out of the form? I think we ballpark. You can.
It was probably, I want to say, close to maybe $2 million. We had reprogramming dollars that we gave to the department. And I don't know if it's all paving. Some of it's street reconstruction. Some of it's handicap curb cuts. Some of it is, we gave streets and handicap curb cuts a whole lot of money this year.
And I know that's particularly high because our bond has expired and because of ARP money going into other programming. So I mean, we've already been through that back in April. But is that any easier for you to administer because it's one objective and one location? Like administering $2 million to our paving budget versus all the $30 and $40 and $100,000 grants you do.
Well, not necessarily, because there are different locations. The weather plays a part on administering that program. We still have a deadline that we have to meet as far as expending a certain amount of dollars per HUD. So it involves a whole lot of different things. Any other questions?
No, it's just me. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Here's the reimbursement
Oh, thank you.
up on the screen. And that shows up on line item, revenue count number 3652.
And Deb, let me absolutely reassure you, my biggest concern in this whole conversation is that funding is going to get cut further with HUD and Department of Government Efficiency or whatever it's called.
And it has been each year, and we kind of work with who we have, and as I mentioned before, we don't have one person who does just one thing. Everybody works and participates, and we're a team, and everybody pitches in when they can.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Is Lori here?
Lori's here.
Okay, I thought we'd do clerks and council next. Or I can, while we're waiting, I could go through the treasurer.
Lori, are you ready? Or do you want them to do treasurer first?
I don't care. Okay, since you're here.
Where's the Jasmine, you want to sit over with Eric, because you're like the administrator on this one.
So it's page 18 and 19. 18 and 19 in the budget.
I mean, I think the year went by fast. No one went on any specific trips or any type of trainings that I know of.
First time in a lifetime that we had shirts sold, thanks to you.
I went
And-
to Cincinnati.
Yeah, she went to
Okay.
Cincinnati, and we had homecoming, Chambers homecoming.
Oh, yeah.
We did that as, there's a couple things that we took out.
Any question? We reviewed the stuff for the clerk's office, and we asked for a little bit more money in overtime and also in advertising from last year, and we still have some left, but we do most of our advertising in December, or a lot of it. And
Increase in educational training with the new deputy clerk.
yes, we did ask that, just in case there's something that comes up.
Okay.
And you never use that professional services.
We need it.
But it's always good to have, just in case.
I agree.
Worst case scenario, we have a surplus in our budget at the end of the year.
Yeah.
So, yeah, if we find some places to go, we'll borrow. What else?
We don't use flex times, we use overtime in our,
Mm-hmm.
why?
I don't know. I don't think it's legal to use flex time. We've always did time and a half. We added them some hours this year for the budget sessions because we didn't know if you guys would need anything, and,
I just like to hear you talk.
I talk too much. But like Lisa and Melissa gave us everything that we thought we would need. So,
Yeah.
there's really, unless you have any questions, I was pleased.
I think a handful of us talked about this in smaller groups in various spots casually. But with the departure of Marilyn this year and a new deputy clerk, I'd like to end the fact that pretty much every other department that comes in here, someone got a mid-year salary raise that was allocated for. I'm hoping to see your salary for 25 get bumped up to 78,000. Is what I think a couple different people on council have suggested.
Thank you.
Obviously, that's something that needs voted on as part of the consolidation that we do at the end, but.
All opposed?
And that's something that has been discussed with, I think I just drew the straw that said that I was gonna say it on the record. But I think I've spoke to, I'm not sure, I don't remember if I spoke to Mo or not, but I think I've spoke to everyone here at some point. And I wasn't even one that suggested a number, I think I said round up to a little less than that.
I think I heard that when I was on the golf club.
Yeah.
Good move.
Thank you.
I mean, and it's definitely been recognized that your hard work and everything that you do in our office keeps all of us on council ready and prepared. So when Chuck brought it to my attention, I was in favor. And when he started throwing out numbers, I was not against anything. I know that you were a little hesitant on bringing up the conversation just because compared to what council members make, you don't want to ask for anything. Yeah.
She also currently makes less than previous city
Yeah.
clerks.
And when he brought up the history, I was definitely in favor of bringing you up to where past people have been in the past, because you're definitely an asset, and we want to make sure that we're, making our people who are holding us up when we're not here every day, 5 days a week, are being recognized. So
7 days a week sometimes.
yeah, because
Thank
we
you.
get emails and stuff on the weekend.
It's an effort, though. It's the whole office. We're a
Yes.
great team, I think.
Definitely, and we're happy that Kelsey's back from, maternity leave, and with Marilyn retiring, we've had a great deputy clerk join the team.
Not too many hiccups.
Yeah,
with
Mike has definitely been an asset as well. He joined with flawless effort, so that's always very, very much appreciated.
He's been so diligent. I've been
Yeah.
really excited.
His 30
Yeah.
days was over yesterday, so we're keeping him.
Good move.
That's good news.
All right, Lisa, you have that for a roundup at the end when we. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I got it.
To increase, it takes a supermajority. Just to remind everyone what the rules are on that stuff.
Just 5.
And I just wanted to point out, I told you probably the first session about the fact that we decided to do the group insurance by averaging it across, basically by head count. And we tried to do something different this year in '24, and this failed in the council department especially, because we budgeted 32,000, and then a couple more people got insurance, and we're way over budget. So we're going to fix all that at the end of the year, but we went back to averaging.
Is that what this?
Mm-hmm.
So we had a little deficit as well, but.
Yeah.
you said
Well,
you're
at the
gonna
end of the
fix-
year, we'll
Adjust.
adjust all of those and
Get us
just
final
do a
numbers.
reclassification, put everything in the right budgets.
Does the council have any other questions for the clerk's office or council's office?
Is coffee ready?
Thank you.
Nice job. She is sweet, isn't she?
Can we go through the treasurer real quick before you guys come up? Oh, treasurer, yeah.
Notice the long sleeves. I
I'll,
like it.
I'll move over and you guys can sit. That's okay. All right.
Yeah, really fine here.
Yeah. you can
Kaz,
split
just
up.
be careful of that edge there.
Wait, what's wrong with that chair?
No.
You don't want to fall back over the edge.
I ain't going backwards. I'm only going forward. Right.
What page will we be on?
That chant, yeah.
We ain't going back.
28? 28 now.
How good?
28.
Hello, council. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so looking at our 2025 proposed budget, the only thing that really sticks out in the operating expenses is our postage. Our postage is going up $5,000, but that's just because of postage itself is going up. Our bond, we went down because I believe that Lisa and company takes care of that through risk management. And then the biggest thing, I don't know if this is when we talk about this, but the biggest thing that we have on here is that we asked for a new position, an additional position for a teller. And the reason being behind that is, and just to give you some backup data, in the year 2022, we had 23 new liens. In the year 2023, we had 32 new liens. In the year 2024, we had 34 new liens. That was before the stormwater. So now that we have started leaning stormwater fees, we had an additional 5,300 new liens. So we have a chief lien clerk who also double duties and does teller work. And they normally were only doing about 35, 50, we'll say tops 50 to make numbers easy, liens a year, new liens a year. And now what we're doing is we're giving them 5,300 new liens to do. And that's just because of the stormwater fee. Each lien roughly takes 45 minutes to do. So that person, our chief lien clerk, wouldn't be able to do telework and lien work because we're already going to be out-houred basically, because I think we do about 18, 20 hours a year. And this would be roughly around, if we just go easy numbers, even at 30 minutes, if we could do a lien per year, we're at 2,500 hours. So
Would it be a one-time catch-up, Eddie? In other words, I know a lot of people didn't pay the thing because they didn't understand what it was. That's why we're leaning them now.
yes, well, the good thing that we did when we originally, at the end of December 31st, January of this year, we had roughly around, I think it was 7,000 liens, but we extended to 23 till the end of May. So we were able to pay, or people were able to pay that many 23 liens or stormwater fees before we started liening them. And that brought us down to the 5,300. So that part was good, but we still had these 5,300 people who we hadn't paid their 23. So we started liening them, and since we started liening them, a few people have started coming in and paying them before we have to go over to the county courthouse and go through that process with them. So that part is a good thing, but just in itself, it's overwhelming for one person to be doing that and telework. So that's why we're asking for another teller so we can dedicate this person to those liens.
And they would be able to work as a teller as well
Yes.
after the liens are caught up. Because I think that's the concern, is that once we're all caught up with the liens, we're paying for a whole person. What's that person going to be doing outside of liens? And, I go over there sometimes and it gets pretty busy. So I understand the need for tellers during certain times of the years to have an extra person, especially when people are paying taxes, when people are coming to get caught up on their stormwater fees or other things that you guys handle. So I just think that the concern of the effectiveness of adding another person is something that a lot of council members are going to be concerned because of the expense of adding another full-time employee, plus the pension, plus everything that comes with a new employee, which is something we were talking about when we were talking about the sewer and the refuse.
I do know that, and I think that part of the year, Public Works has a part-time employee who was helping out in the beginning doing answering stormwater fees and whatnot. I think they were doing somewhere in the neighborhood of 20 hours a week or something like that. I mean, even if we can get something like that, it's going to be helpful because we're basically swimming right now. I don't want to say we're drowning, but it is getting treading water. There we go. It is getting more and more difficult.
How many stormwater customers are there? Do you know that?
We send out 37,000.
Okay, so the number of liens is never going to go away. They're not going to get it caught up. Every year there'll be new liens. And I would, and this is just a flat-out guess, that it's going to settle in at about 10%, so 3,800 instead of 5,800 maybe. But it'll never go away, so that's something that we'd have to keep an eye on.
So at the time when I ran these numbers, we had 9,400 of 2024 stormwater fees that hadn't been paid as of yet. So hopefully that number will come down, but that's where we're at when I ran these, and I think I ran these the middle of November.
Can we see about having this reimbursed from the stormwater fund if the cost is because of stormwater?
That'll be part of the central service reimbursement calculation.
We could call them a stormwater clerk, and their, money would be paid for that clerk that way.
Brought him in as a part-time employee, he'd save a lot of money in pension and things like that. The cost of the employee would be much lower in the short term anyway, until we found out for sure if we need somebody there then.
Now,
I'm
right?
not sure we need the.
The benefits cost
Right.
$35,000 a year. That's
Right.
the number.
Yeah.
So I'm always more comfortable paying someone a
Somebody
much higher
part-time,
part-time hourly
yeah.
rate to avoid the benefits. And I'm saying this on record, so hopefully AFSCME's not watching. I know they are.
Like, we understand the need, it's just the expense of adding another full-time employee. So like, let's look into numbers, crunching for adding a part-time employee to your guys' office to get you guys balanced and settled as far as trying to get ahead of this new stormwater fee and all the liens that are being added to your workload because of that. There has been additional work added to your small
Are we
office.
leaning people for $36 or $24?
Yes,
So it takes 45 minutes to get a $24 lien up?
yes. The entire lien process is, I don't want to say it's tedious, but it is a full process.
I think what they wanted to prevent, Ed, you were around when Mario made the great garbage mistake. And it kept multiplying. And the same thing happened with parking tickets. We didn't look at them aggressively. And sure, this year it's 24, but if they see we're not going to come after them,
Right.
it's going to be next year's 24, and next year's 24 after that. So we all discussed this with,
Right.
public, and it was the only way that, if we're going to do this, let's do it serious. Otherwise, it's a joke, and they're just not going to, they're going to sit on it, and some council in the future is going to have to figure out how to make up the deficit.
No, I just want clarification. I agree.
Does anyone else have any questions on the additional teller, looking into the number crunching for part-time teller? Because the need is there. We just know that we can't take on a full-time with the expense of $30,000 for the pension and the benefits at this time. We're trying to condense our numbers.
Try to go with the part-time, let's make it decent.
Right.
Yeah, if we gave them 50,000 in casual labor, that would be still a $30,000 savings from what you're asking for.
We brought up the union thing.
So,
Bringing somebody in essence, breaking the union by doing that part-time thing. I don't know. It's a good point. Solicitor might have to get involved with that one a little bit.
I mean, believe me, we can find enough work for that person either way. I mean,
What kind of time do we have? When's the peak time for these things to go out?
well, there's different peak times. You can tell them that. There's,
All the time?
so are we talking when the stormwater fee bills go out? They go out in January.
Yeah, when do you
Yeah.
start leaning though?
Well, we're leaning now.
Okay, so
So
you
we're- yeah,
need
we're-
somebody yesterday.
Yes, yeah, we're leaning
That's
now.
my point.
I mean, sometimes your lines go
Right.
way out your door. and-
well, yeah, we got dog licenses that come in at a certain time, and then we got the various deadlines, stormwater, then the liens, and so it's not like, it's not like it's ever slack.
The dog license is one of those things that I never think of until someone says it, and then I say, oh yeah, why are we doing that still?
It's very intensive paperwork. I mean,
Yeah.
it doesn't look like it's a big deal, but it ties up a teller
From
who now can't do other stuff.
From a state standpoint, that's a county responsibility. The county does it for every other municipality in our county, except for us. We charge something for it that's not a revenue source, frankly, and then we're paying people to manage that. That's something that we may want to just get rid of.
Well, that's your decision.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not ours.
Yeah. How much time do you think gets invested in that? Do you think you'd give me a ballpark to see if it's worth cutting?
The dogs?
No, not tonight, not right now.
Yeah.
But like, how many licenses do you do a year? How much time, effort is it? Because, Antonio complains about it too. I mean, he's like, hey, these dog license, I just had to do another one. Like, some of you guys think those are really annoying to do.
Can't you get one that's forever?
Uh-huh.
Custom one.
Yeah, they have lifetime tags. Yes, they do.
Or you just not do it.
My man.
Yeah.
So Chuck, why is it that everybody else can get it through the county, but not the city, when the city's in the county?
Because we thought we'd make a little money on it. And
We
we're
even
not.
had cat licenses at one time. That didn't work out.
We got bike licenses. We got rid of those last year.
The coffee.
Okay.
So it's something that it would be interesting to see if you guys have a better gauge of it, like how many licenses are actually happening, how labor intensive that is, to see if it's worth us getting rid of that ordinance and leaving it on the county.
It's required by the county.
The county is required to do such things. The city is not. And it's slightly debatable as to whether or
I
not
can't
we
even remember when
legally
they
should.
did it. It was a while back.
It's been quite a few years,
Mm-hmm.
and we discussed that.
Okay. Do you want to wait until they get back?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm okay.
2003, that's when we did dogs. Some of it was 1991.
So,
1991 is when,
So the laws are anywhere from 1988 to 1991 to 2003. 2003 is the most recent updates on some of them. So at the very least, we should look at the fee if it's not justified, or just getting rid of the whole thing.
Yeah, I want to see the breakdown of like how much do we make versus expend there.
That's not our problem. What do you think of that?
if, I mean, if we decided to drop it and say, hey, county, here it is, they have to take it.
Yeah, they do. They
Probably,
do.
yeah.
They do. I think this is the same ordinance we looked at when I was trying to put chickens on. So I remember spending some time with it 2 years ago or a year ago.
Shoot the chicken.
And that's why we didn't change the law here. No. But the most we ever get for any of these dog licenses is $8, and that was last touched over 20 years ago.
Yeah, and 57, and even with the new up change, that's what I was doing right here. Like the changes that are supposed to hit in 2024, it still is. It's the county that has to do it. So I think that we've simply just made it easier for them in the city to do something that we're not really responsible for. And if it's expending a lot of energy, this could be another way of saving and transferring over some of the duties.
Yes, you don't have to do dog licenses anymore, but you have to do stormwater. We're counting that as a wash.
Well, if that's the case, we only do about 4,000 dog tags a year.
Now, do those payments come in together as one check usually? The stormwater and the taxes? Or do people pay them at different times?
They pay them at different times.
So that's twice as many checks?
Yes.
Okay.
They come in, and one of the things is some people, you know, they'll pay their city and their county. Now, they all come in the same envelope, city, county, and stormwater, come in the
Yeah.
same envelope. But they'll pay their city and county, but they won't pay their stormwater. Some people say, oh, I didn't even know it was in there, I didn't see it, but
My stormwater came second.
this year,
Yeah.
2023, they came separate, but 2024, they should have come together.
They did.
Yeah, the first year we got caught.
By
Right.
itself.
Mhm.
But I think
That's what we like to hear.
You know where to find it.
But as for our tax collections, I think we've collected 99% of the budget amount thus far as of 11/30. So we're hoping to get that last 1% for the end of the year. That's our goal.
I think this is the first department I've heard say that's my goal. Good goal. Good one.
You guys are a big reason why we have to give our clerk a raise. Up until 2021, the clerk always made more than the deputy treasurer. And now he's, under this budget, was originally proposed for 14,000 more than the clerk. But up until 2020, the clerk always made more than the deputy treasurer. 2021, that split was just a couple $100. It's continued to escalate to now that him being at 14,000 more. And so now we got to catch our clerk up a little bit. Maybe we're not being generous enough with our staff is part of that. And then there's another part to it too, as big as that spread's got.
Are you referring to Ed, or?
Yeah, it's always awkward
Well,
because
he's
there.
more than, he's more than a deputy.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Okay? If I wanted to hire a deputy, I could find a deputy a lot less, but nobody. And I would, you can find somebody, fine, okay? You're not gonna find anybody with his knowledge of the computer system, the ability to work with the computer department, the ability to work with the printing department, the ability to get all the mailing out on time, all the money distributed. He's much more than a deputy. I had a deputy when I was, a city controller, but he's almost like my assistant. And I would put him in the same category that the mayor's assistant is. He's to me what Renee is to the mayor. He does things that I would have to have the computer department down there probably every day, working on problems and issues, how to get things where they should be. He's a great savings to the city just in what he offers that way. A good computer man, I mean, over the years, even when I was at the school board, we could never keep him. So I mean, I don't look at him as that way.
All right, sorry guys and ladies and everyone.
If the comparison's going to be that salary, then we're going to have to give Lori even a bigger raise. So I'd like you to cool it down on that. If the comparison's going to be to the way you did with the mayor thing, then we're going to have to give Lori an even bigger raise. So I want you to cool it down with that a little bit.
I'm just trying to, I feel, what I asked for was equitable with what he does. But,
You don't even like them, huh?
I mean, you know what?
Yeah, we know that.
I can give you this offer. Take away my raise in the future. Go ahead, I don't care. He's,
Do you think you can make it with part-time?
pardon?
Do you think you can make it with the part-time position instead of the full-time position?
What, a deputy?
No. Back to the
Teller.
teller
A
position.
treasurer?
No, with the
Teller.
teller position.
Tell her for the,
Just trying to figure out what you're saying.
Realistically, I could do it, but I would think we have enough work for a full-time position. And if you would like to come and watch a day in my office, I'll let you make your own mind up.
When would you intend to hire that position? When does stuff get busy for you?
Pardon?
When does stuff get busy for you? When would you intend to hire that position?
I asked that question, say right now.
Yeah, but you
First of
said
the year.
water, stormwater. Like, I know there's certain times where things get crazy for you.
Well, it never quiets down there. I mean, years ago, we had extra employees, and for good reason, they cut them back. Okay, they cut them back because we lost income tax. We didn't take utility payments like we used to back when I was real young. We took utility payments and everything. Those windows were loaded. Over the last year, since I joined City Hall, we added dog licenses, stormwater. That's all additions. And we actually gave up people. During the flip year, they cut a couple of people. So I'm just saying, after I looked at it, after being here about 6 years, yes, I could work with a part-time employee, but I think we have enough work. I feel confident in saying there's enough work for a full-time employee. More than enough.
So Ed, you and I were talking last week, the bills go out, your bills are gonna go out in January.
Yes,
Okay.
for 2025.
So when do the payments start coming in?
So the payments start coming in right after they go out. So, I mean,
All right, there's no cushion there. Got it.
but I guess
That's
that,
fine.
I mean, you always have the ability next year, if you think it didn't work out, you can cut that employee. But I'm telling you that it's the best way for you. I would invite you to come to the office, just take a look at an average day.
What really surprises me is the amount of people that come in person. You know, they're just not sending it by mail. They're coming in person to do their business.
I always didn't like the term teller. That's a bad term. Because when people applied for a job, they thought they were gonna sit in a chair like you do in a bank. That's not the job. The job for our teller, and I'd like to change the wording as we've talked about it, to encompass what it really is. You are handling mail that's coming in, opening envelopes, checking the balances. If they're not right, you have to take care of that. We have to take care of it. We have to mail it back to the customer or call them. So then, besides all that, you expect it to go up on the counter. When it gets busy, that means something is lacking. Something is suffering. And then you've got dog licenses at one time of year where that takes kind of preference, and then you've got city and school taxes at different dates. So the teller is never just a teller. They're doing a lot of different things. They're handling dog licenses, stormwater, also dealing with customers on the phone. It's not a teller job. Teller job, you would be sitting in a chair like I did when I was at the parking authority. I took money and I just handed them a ticket and that was it. Teller is not, doesn't even come close to explaining that job.
I've known Ed probably longer than anyone here. And I believe he would not ask for a position if he didn't need it. And I will support it full time.
Thank you.
You need super, right?
Yeah.
You need 5.
Well, to cut it would only be simple, but I'm just kicking around to see if there's any feel for it. Nobody seems very interested in running along with that. So, you know, I don't see it even being worth putting up as a vote. Give them all of it. It's good. Yeah.
That means you have to go through a union to put somebody in there? That's the only reason for my part-time. You could pick who you wanted as in a part-time position, right?
The part-time, I think, goes to the union too, doesn't it?
But there are some part-time positions that are in the,
If they do work of a teller, then I think,
yeah.
those are beyond my job
That's
description.
wrong, yeah.
I'm thinking that if they do a job that would normally be a teller, or even
Yeah,
something
you-
like it, then you got a problem.
You
Like,
will.
we can bring an intern on, but the intern can't do any job that the union would handle normally, to my knowledge. Am I
Right, yeah, anything you do, you're going to have to talk to the union.
Cool. No, have to tell her. We're good.
Okay. Yeah,
But I think,
it's
you
never
know,
against it, I was just trying to
the
find
added
the fastest-
efficiency and what we'll
best
do,
way.
I think it'd be a no-brainer, really. But like I say, I welcome you, come down and take a look.
I mean, it's going into 2025 budget, hopefully, so then we, try and get them start up in 2025. Probably by I'd say no later than the end of January, if it passed. But as soon
Kaz
as,
did say he was going to give his salary toward that, right?
yeah, I think that's what I heard.
Any questions?
Nope.
Go get him, man.
All right, I'd like to just take 5 minutes and review the controller's budget. She wasn't able to come tonight.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Okay, take care.
Really, nothing's changed. They have the same employees.
What are we talking about?
Controller,
Oh,
it's
okay.
on page 29.
29, right next door.
How many did they have in there? Employees?
They've got the 3 employees in the controller's office and then the pension officers. And so there's 4 of them there, but they're 2 different pages, 29 and 30.
And they're all union. There's no changes in their salaries.
Right. No, the pension officers.
Oh,
No,
sorry.
the 2, yeah.
She has 7.
Yeah, the deputy controller and the audit clerk are both union.
Just
Yeah, and then the on the next page is your pension administrator, and she's non-bargaining. And really, I think they asked for the same exact budget as that they had this year. And I understand that they didn't use many of these items, but they want them available in case they need to use them. The professional services and the office equipment and operating supplies. They will spend the operating supplies. A lot of these things come in late in the year. The education and training, they didn't do any this year, but they're hoping,
Next year.
expecting to do some next year. Yeah, so, and the postage, although we're paying most of the postage out of the general government now, sometimes they need to send things out, FedEx or UPS or they need to mail things, so they wanted to have a postage budget. And if they don't need it, they won't use it. So, as proven by this year and other years, so. Any questions on either of those? And the pension officer is completely reimbursed, 100% by the pension.
Has that wage been throughout the years the same?
I think it dropped a little when Kate started and then basically that wage is controlled by the union board. So it has increased. It's increasing from 24 to 25 by a little bit more than the 2.5% that the rest of the employees are getting, but that was voted on by the pension board and will be reimbursed.
Right, I just want to make
So-
sure she's paid what
Yeah.
she's due.
Anything else?
I have no questions. Anyone else have questions?
Okay, so.
It's pretty easy to follow.
Are you there? Okay, so the office of code enforcement and it's development finance and code enforcement on page 202, starting on page 22 and 23.
Good evening, everyone. Do we want to start with?
Whatever you want.
Yeah, we'll start
Yeah.
with finance. It's the smaller two.
Yeah, that'll be faster.
So pretty straightforward. It's a budget for myself and our grant administrator and grant writer. It's kind of nice because we can break out and we can show, what it costs us to provide the economic development funding, loans and grants, and what it costs us to generate all the grants that are coming into the city. So you can see on one end the expenditure side of it. We hadn't done it this way in the past, but it kind of clarifies that, and you contrast that to what is being brought in with those development funds and the grants. So to give you a little context, budget in total is about $392,000. Year to date so far this year, there's been $28.9 million in grants secured, and roughly another $500,000 in program income from the economic development loan funds. So, it's a really straightforward, very, very lean budget that has returned over 30 million on 476 times the cost. So initiatives like the Fly Erie Fund, which helped to secure another airlines coming to Erie. So in the new year, I'm just looking to keep the momentum going with both the economic development funds and obviously all the grant work that really Renee has spearheaded along with our grant administrator and grant writer. Operating expenses is just bare minimum, some paper, toner, paper clips. Communication is, that looks like the phone bill allocated. It's an odd number, so it must be an allocation of something, and that's it. But I'm really proud of what we've been able to bring in and what we generate and the businesses we support, and you know, and anytime you can run a profit, that's not our mission, but it's always good to do that. So.
And the communications is cell phones normally. That's about all that goes into that.
Okay, yeah, I don't have a phone, a city phone, but yeah, whatever that is, it's just minimal expense, a little bit of office supply and a couple other things, so. If you have any questions on that part of it.
I don't personally have any questions. I always appreciate seeing how much, you know, that department is an expense because it pretty much pays for itself. So it's always nice to see how much we're able to, you know, cover an administrative cost for grants, because I know we seek many grants and we've been able to garnish a lot of different projects for our community because of that department. So I'm always really welcoming the growth of that department because it pretty much pays for itself, and we need people to find as much grant money that we can to help with those need and want lists that we're always hearing about. The need first and then the wants, but definitely happy to see that your department is pretty cost effective and it pays for itself. So thank you, Chris.
Thank you, and I appreciate that. I appreciate all of your support. As you know, obviously this is a new fixture in the budget, but I like the transparency that it gives us. I mean, we can see exactly what our return on the money is, and you know, just the quick math in my head, it's 76 times. In
$28 million. That's a lot of money.
A lot of needed money.
And that doesn't include the leveraging of the economic development loans and grants. And
Right.
for example, we'll probably at the year end up providing $4 to $4.5 million in direct loans and probably another $400,000 to $500,000 in economic development grants. That doesn't include state grants, and that's leveraged usually 4 to 4.5 times in the deals that I close. So, you know, those are all things, we really can't take a measure of that here, but it affects the community, and we're able to do it without it costing us anything. You know, we generate income, so I just want to keep that momentum going, so.
And
Thank
also,
you.
part of the grant administrator and grant writer are being reimbursed out of ARP.
Yeah, we're all.
Mostly the administrator.
Yeah. And of course, I'm 100% reimbursed through the loan funds, so. Okay. All right, so we will move on then to code enforcement. This obviously, this has a different look this year too. I don't know, maybe we could start on, do you want to start on the revenue side of that or expenditure side?
You get the short straw.
We did revenue at our first meeting, so unless you want to like emphasize
Okay.
that.
No, I didn't know if you had already covered the
We
permits
went
and
through-
licenses.
No, we went through all those revenues, and then we actually even amended a couple of them,
Okay.
expecting you to make more money.
Okay.
Let's get after it.
I don't like to run things at a loss. I break out in a rash
Yeah.
when I do that, so.
You know, you're the fourth person to be in charge of this department since we've started.
Right.
I'm wrapping up my third year here, so, and not the last one, but the one before that made a big priority that they wanted to be revenue neutral in the code enforcement and the planning department as a whole. So, I mean, I think that's a very reasonable goal, and you know, I hope that's something you aspire after in this.
That's, you know, there's a few things that I'm going to look at. I'm just still, you know, getting the first look under the hood. There's a lot of good work being done too, and I don't want that to be lost. there's obviously some things that, maybe we can adjust moving forward. We can talk about that more, I guess, after we go out over the numbers. There are some things on the expenditure side I would like to adjust.
What page are you on, Chris?
I'm sorry, 23.
23?
These adjustments in total will actually cut the budget slightly, but there's some things I think we need to shift. Starting with 4024 tool allowance. And as I looked at the year-to-date numbers at the end of November, and then I looked at the last few years, I don't know where that number 2,600 came from, but I'd like to put that at 15,000. That's about where we're going to end the year this year. And the year prior was a little over 14. I think that's where we need to be, is 15,000 there. I'm looking at professional services, 4041. I'd like to put that at 25. I think 20 is very tight, and that's still a reduction from all the prior years. Communication, we actually, I think that needs to be boosted a little more, because this is the implementation of CityWorks and the mobility we talked about, and it's been pushed back a year. You can see in the 24 budget we had initially.
Did some of these reductions, because some of these reductions are pretty dramatic, from last year to this year's proposal, 20,000 to 2,600. Are some of these things that are split up because of the way things have gotten shuffled around? Like, is this?
Right, well, we split off neighborhood resources, and we also split off the grant writer, and, no, the grant writer had been in economic development, and the grant administrator, I believe, was in this combined neighborhood resources.
That's a lot of
code
it.
department.
Yes.
So, and then, there's a lot of things that have been going on. There were vests in the uniforms last year, I think. Yeah, there were, but yeah, some of this stuff is just, the communication is all those tablets and
Right.
all of that. So you're saying that's going to happen next year?
The goal is to test this in, I think March is the latest timeline I've been given. So we want to have that up and running this year. So that's going to require, and I think the budget was, the 24 budget had accounted for that. We're just pushing that into this year.
Frankly, this has all changed enough where it's hard for me to keep track of it even and break it down line by line. And I don't think I want to inundate you enough to find out how it was supposed to get split between planning and this new department, enough to figure out why that spreads. And you're also new on that, so
Right.
I'm not sure you know either
Right.
as far as the baseline that well.
It's a steep curve I'm on right now.
However, like, if you just don't spend, if we allocate him the money, you've been frugal enough with the management you've done here up to this point that I feel like this is all a problem for next December.
Well, thank you. And you can see, I mean, we budgeted 25 last year, we didn't use it. So, and it was because I think that the thought was it was going to be implemented this year. It's been pushed into next year. Timeline that I've been given is I believe March is when we're going to be testing that and have the users being trained on that.
And that under communication?
That's, communication, yeah.
That's for the GIS system, right? Okay, correct.
Yep.
Well, I'm just excited to actually get that thing going. We've been hearing about it for the last 3 years. Whether it's coming from the budget of last year or this year, we know it's an expense that we have to, have. So I'm pretty sure Lisa will make the adjustments needed to reflect.
And to offset that, 4059, I believe, can be cut to 400,000. So in total, this reduces the operating budget about 14,000.
Can you repeat which one you just said?
4059 is currently at 440. I think that can be cut to 400 to make up for those other increases.
Okay.
So in total, we're about 14,000 less than what's on
Any
here.
idea why it was 200,000 higher last year for budgeting? Anyone remember that one?
There were matches for grants. There were, the big part of this line item is I always get this wrong, BIU, Building and inspectors,
underwriters,
whatever, BIU. So, yeah, that's volatile. It fluctuates depending on the activity that's going on. So,
That was also where
Timmons.
where we put all that into IT now, so all the software is in the same place.
yeah.
What about advertising? When I listen to the zoning meetings, sometimes the people come up and they say, well, we didn't know about it. Is there a way we can communicate that there might be a zoning change in a different way than putting it on a poll, or how do they go about? Sometimes, like, for instance, that place on East Grandview Boulevard that was up for a zoning change. And some of the people came up and they said, well, we didn't know about it. Is there a way we can put maybe more money into advertising to get the word out that the citizens know more information?
I mean, I can look into that to see if we're using every method available. That's on the list of things I'm going to be
I mean, Chuck,
discovering.
do you agree with
so.
me? Don't people sometimes?
Say they didn't hear about something.
I go to those meetings and I listen to what they say.
Like, I just know that, like, not a lot of people, I know my generation, we're not reading the newspaper. So when things are posted in the newspaper, it's not like a good chunk of the community is actually getting that. Also, unless they are subscribing to the digital subscription, they're not even getting the online news. So sometimes the radios,
maybe
like,
that's something we can utilize, the city's social media
Yeah,
for.
yeah,
I
definitely.
don't know. I'll have to find out. I'll have to find out what legally we have to do, and I would think if we're meeting a certain legal standard, anything over and above that should be okay, I would
Right.
think. But no, we can look into that.
And I'm going to say anything like that, if we need to transfer a few $1,000s into that budget, we can find it in one of these other accounts, I'm sure.
We put a placard in the yard.
Where's his voice even coming from?
whoa.
Andy.
Andy, you are here with us?
That's me, Andy.
Sorry, I forgot to
We
mention.
put a
he is
placard in the front yard so the neighbors will see it. It's an orange sign. We also will send letters to the adjoining neighbors to let them know what is going on as well.
Thanks.
So we do our best trying to reach out to let the neighbors in the neighborhood know that something's possibly going to change.
I apologize, Andy, I forgot to mention you're on there. Have I said anything that is,
It's good
does
to
not,
hear
does
your
not make
voice.
sense, or,
Yeah, I'm gonna say you sound good. Thank you for joining us tonight.
I just think you want to make sure.
I didn't
you
get
mess
that,
us
you're breaking up, but no, you're spot on. We're just lucky to have you.
Oh, well, I did find one thing out with the uniforms. That was cut to just what we're required to provide by the contract.
Okay,
And there was vests in this number.
because I'm looking at year-to-date, and we were at about 15, just under 15,000, so I don't know.
Okay, well,
I mean,
you made it up from the other services, so.
Right, all the
Just
cuts
leave
that we
that.
had, you made up, so.
Andy, can
Yeah.
you address that? I mean, 2,600, that just stood out to me, like, I don't know if that's going to work. You still there?
What is
Jumped
this?
off the call, but I was just
Yeah.
going on historical numbers. If there's a change there,
Yeah. But then
Well,
you'll-
if you ask to bump it up a little bit and you don't spend it, we're fine.
Yeah,
And
that's fine.
You
Right.
can look at our budget, you can look at controller's office budget, like this happens all the time with us. Just don't spend it and we'll have a surprise surplus.
Yeah, those were the changes I proposed, and so it actually brings it down a few dollars, if that's okay. And just generally speaking, I'm trying to piece together what this is going to look like in the new year. I think we've had some positive meetings and discussions so far. It's early, but we're going to be meeting with the various neighborhood groups, the neighborhood leaders, the groups, the centers. Some of this has already been scheduled on a reoccurring basis. I'm going to be with them, walking the neighborhoods, hearing from the leaders what their priorities are in each neighborhood. That's the expectation, is more engagement, and I will be with them on that. And so I look forward to learning a whole lot in the new year. And we'll see how much an accountant can learn about building, but I think I've learned a lot already, and so I'm excited about that. But it's really about engaging folks, and we've got a lot of that scheduled already, and it's going to be reoccurring. And I also, I envision this being a lot like the finance activity right now. Like you all get a quarterly update on what I do. You get a quarterly report. Our goal is next year to hopefully be able to schedule a study session with you on a quarterly basis, that you're going to see what was done that quarter, and know what the officers are doing, because I do believe a lot of this is a lack of communication. There is a lot of good work being done. I've discovered that, and I don't think it's getting out. I don't think folks know that.
A lot of people don't understand the complexity of the job either.
There's a lot to this, and
work hard.
I don't doubt that there's some things that we can work on and tweak, but I know there's a lot of work being done up there. I've seen it, and so it's our job to communicate that and show you. And so I'm looking forward, and I hope that we can quarterly get together and have a study session and show you on our system. And actually, do you still want to show?
I can show. This is the dashboard that has identified 48 priority properties that they're working on. And you can see how many have been blighted, demolished, repaired, and rescinded. And Erin Pence, who's our GIS administrator, is amazing. She created a priority property photo viewer so we can monitor the progress. And so this is one property. You can see these are the before pictures. There's several before pictures here. Maybe.
Must have been taken during the storm.
And maybe not.
This afternoon.
Well, we wanted to show you the before and after.
Well, anyways, you're going to see when we start reviewing the activity, you're going to see a before and after, and the cases that are being worked on. So it looks like it's frozen now.
Well, I know I personally look forward to when the software is working, because that's an investment we put a lot of money into, and we were hoping that it would make things a little bit more effective. So we're all looking forward to the aftermath of all of this transition.
Here we go. That's the after on that one. That was the same property.
Oh,
Same house?
So there's a lot of these stories out there that we just don't even know about, and so I'll be reaching out in the new year to do that.
Just out of curiosity, does anyone know anything about that house? Is that private investment? Is that public investment? Is it nonprofit?
It's private.
Yeah,
Great.
There's no.
And the code officers, they work with people. They're not trying to penalize them. They're trying to help find them resources to make these improvements.
Yeah, what I've put out. Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, this one you know. This
Yeah.
one I have up right now.
What I've said early on in our first meetings is it's not about number of citations. I want an increase in number of engagement. I'm not looking to write tickets. I mean, there's going to be times we have to do that.
Right.
But I want to work with folks give them an opportunity to fix things, let them know that we want it done, but it's about engagement. It's not about citations. And citations are going to be part of the equation sometimes, but, I've learned early and quick here that these guys and gals do have relationships in their zones. They talk with the homeowners, and they give them opportunities to fix things, and that they're not going straight to the hammer. We don't want to do that to our residents. So I'm really excited to actually walk the neighborhoods with them and be with them and meet the folks. And it's a change for me, and I'm looking forward to that. And then just quickly, one of the other pieces that I'd like to try to put into place next year is I think one of our officers I would like to dedicate to strictly to rentals, to suitable housing, and not necessarily, I mean, everybody else is by zone, and we need to keep it that way. But I believe instead of maybe having somebody as a floater or whatever you want to call that, I want this person to be dedicated to tackling unsuitable rental housing.
I'd like that titled that way in the budget so that it's visible.
Okay. Well, we could probably do that.
I mean, that's rental code enforcement or whatever it is, but identify that.
I'm gonna task this person with developing a relationship with the apartment association and landlords. We don't want to be adversarial, but they're going to clean their apartments up, or their properties up.
Would that then change some of the ways that position could then be funded? Wouldn't that open it up to CBG funding? Possibly.
I don't know, but we'll see.
You remember the thing where we just got audited from 2017?
Yeah.
A lot of that was in code enforcement.
Right. But I thought it was because of what they were doing with their position, but if there was one just addressed to the housing component.
So you get a little bit out of a qualified census track, you no longer qualify. I mean, that adds a lot of red tape.
You gotta keep meticulous records that are above, beyond reproach. They meet all the requirements.
So not to say no, but we did just get reminded as to how much is at risk on that.
I think this year is going to be kind of a pilot, right? I mean, because we're talking about this right now with some other initiatives on how to help new Americans get settled here, and that's a totally different budget, totally different discussion. But we're hoping to set up some tools to help integrate them into the community, to find them housing, to help them get their resumes. Saeed just worked with 24 folks and found them jobs. There's connections to be made. You establish a pilot and you can demonstrate that it works, then the grant team can go out and start hunting money. But you got to show that you developed a tool that works. So I'm hoping in the new year we can develop something, and I don't know what that fully looks like yet, but I would like to dedicate somebody to tackling unsuitable housing, that is rental housing.
Definitely proactive.
We definitely need it.
Chuck and I had a meeting today with JCLA, and they brought up a great question throughout it at the end around lead, like identifying lead pipes that are in some of these places too, to help maybe track down grant funding to it. I know that the health department and some others have in the water authority have really gone after this, but if we were doing some of the housing inspection, like with the rental inspections and such, if we were able to identify it and put that in some of the data, it might be already being tracked.
I think the data's there already with the water authority.
Yeah.
But,
And the Water
Could be.
Authority has something in place right now where they want people to do a survey, take a picture of, to identify whether it's lead pipe, and then there's a program that.
there is funding available for that, and you have to take a picture of your service line. Basically, anything that was built before the mid-'60s almost certainly has that. They started the transition in the 60s to copper, but there is.
Do you have access to that same data system so that you know? So like or I suspect you're going to start to see overlap. Like we're really starting to see it sitting in certain zones. This is going to be a question for another time, but I'm just with helping with grants and driving funding to maximize remedial stuff.
I think we're going to discover. I don't know right now.
Yeah.
It's going to be a new year, and there's a whole lot under the hood that I'm trying to take in right now. And I just want to start with the basics. I want to make sure we've got a lot of engagements, and and just make sure that we're talking to the
I am really excited.
residents and the homeowners and helping them. And I think rental housing has got to be addressed, and this may be one small step towards that, dedicating
I
somebody.
think it's a big step, so thank you.
And then the other thing quickly, I think I had a chance to talk with all of you about this.
Looks like a shed.
They're
Oh.
Sorry.
It's Renee's fault.
Distracting us.
Yeah, well, I think I had a chance to talk to all of you about this, is adding, temporarily adding the position of assistant manager of code to the budget that would be funded out of some of the interest that I generate on my loan funds. It's important that we get somebody in that position to learn from Andy, who is going to be that strong connection there between the crew and myself. And Andy, are you still on, Andy?
Yes.
We've talked about that. I think we still believe that's a path forward this year, is to get somebody in there to be able to pass this knowledge on to and get somebody trained up. Or he hung up on me.
You're talking to the microphone, or you won't be able to hear you.
Yeah. Andy, can you hear me?
Yes.
So we're talking about that temporary position of assistant manager of code, and how that would be sort of a learning curve and an on-ramp for someone. I don't know if you have any comment on that.
Yeah. There's a whole lot to code and what goes on, especially with dealing with building permits and all the permits and so forth, that somebody's got to start working with me to learn the ins and outs and what you can do and what you can't do. There's some good people in the office that they're well on their way. Whenever I get an issue, I will forward it to them to work on it and so forth. But I don't know how long I will be with the city, with my health the way it is, and it's just, well, anyways, but somebody's going to need to replace me soon.
Well, I appreciate your guidance so far, Andy, and we need to get somebody in place that can start learning this.
Maybe internal move up.
Well, we'll post it, we'll see. Could be internal, could be, we're gonna put it out there, we'll see. But the important thing is we need to start moving in that direction.
Yeah, please.
And, the budget's sensitive, and I get that, so I can fund that for 1 year. I don't want to do it for 2. I just want to do it for 1 year. And I think that gives whoever it is enough time to fully understand that office. So that's my other request, but that would be that would be an addition, but then on the top line, you would just add it to revenue, or however you do that, reimbursements.
Well, I think all of council understands the need, and we have seen the last year of needing someone in the office for people to be able to go to and be able to navigate, so it's not something that, it's not a need, especially with everything that's happening due to, his health, and he wants to prioritize that, and we understand that. So we want to be supportive in that, and we appreciate him willing, right, Andy, to train the next person and work with Chris while he takes on this new hurdle. But you're doing a great job so far, and we appreciate you being willing to do the current need of our city.
Thank you.
Last year, we were asked for 2 new code enforcement officers. We amended that and added a 3rd one. And I do appreciate the idea of that being specific to rental. I think that's something that we missed last year, to take the opportunity to emphasize that. And I think our council, last year and this year, we've been moving forward with things to emphasize quality, affordable housing for our tenants in our city. And I think that's a really practical decision you made there.
Thank you. It actually came from our discussion, Chuck, about, can that position, what do we do with that?
Oh,
And,
you don't have to give me credit for that, because I totally didn't see that coming.
okay. No, but it did. And I was like, okay, can we cut that? I don't know. I mean, it needs to stand out. It needs to be direct.
Right.
Yeah.
And this person's going to be charged with, you're going to go after the unsuitable rental housing. And, and part of that, again, is building relationships with the apartment association, with landlords. We want to have a good relationship with them, but they're going to have to understand that, we can't just come down on homeowners. We shouldn't be. And so, I don't know, it's worth a shot. I think we need to try it.
But I would like that stated in the budget so that we can make that clear. I think we have a lot of constituents that I think we answer to on this,
Right.
Yeah.
that will appreciate that answer.
Yeah, so this
Thank
person
you.
will be citywide. They're not going to have a specific.
No,
zone.
the whole city, specific for renters.
And the crew, the zones they have, they're still going to be expected to tackle. If there's a problem property in their zone, they still have to tackle that. But this person is going to have the connections to the board of realtors, to the apartment association, and they're going to know who to call. Hey, that's your property. I'm seeing a trend with this person. You need to address this. And I don't know, it might be worth a shot. I think we need to
You've
try
been
it.
around a long time, military background, I think, so you know how important it is to form a unit. These guys are out there on the street, and they're all doing their job, and pretty much every one of them might be doing it a little bit differently, but they're getting it done. And a lot of people
They're getting it
understand
done, but it's not necessarily being tracked the way it should be.
There you go.
And so they already know in the new year, starting the first week of January, we have a weekly debrief, and that's what we're calling it. And so I'll be sitting with all of them, and zoning too, on a weekly basis to know what the activity is. And then, like I said, we're going to be meeting with our West Bayfront once a month, walking the neighborhoods. It's already scheduled with the sisters. I'm working on that with Snoops and with Best as well, and walking their neighborhood with their respective leader and myself and the officer assigned to that zone. So I'm going to see what's there, and then of course I'm going to expect that it's followed up on. So
They're nice guys, I'm just.
they are. They're doing good work. We just need to, there's a few things I think we can tweak and make sure that that word's getting out. So, anyways, those are my handful of requests with the numbers. And I'll be reaching out after the new year, maybe to schedule those quarterly updates.
You're the only one that came in here and said, I'd like to hire with somebody, but I'll pay for them. So I like that.
Yeah, I like
I'm
how
only
you
going
have
to
a
do it
way.
1 year.
I want to say to council, I mean, part of the reason why I'm talking to him about some of those things is because I'm liaison to planning, which in our budget doesn't really exist anymore. Everything's been folded some different ways. And I'm not saying this is any criticism or anything. I understand the adaptability that leadership needs to get this done. I want to address this by the end of the year, that we fold this into either Ordinance 113, which deals with the organization of the mayor's office, that this would be an office of the mayor's office, or an Ordinance 117, which sets up the structures of the different departments. Planning was established as a department in 2020. And that's one of the things I pushed back on with Department of Community Economic Development, because everything he's talking about sounds like it's either community or economic development, and it sounds like community economic development has become the Department of HUD. I think we need to take a look at how some of these structures are at the city, and I'd like by the end of the year to have updated 117 in an appropriate way that actually reflects the functions of our city, with maybe a little bit of an emphasis to make sure that we don't have what I'm perceiving to be redundancies, but maybe that's because I'm not here day to day, or things that have shifted without appropriate balances. So, but Ordinance 117, I really hope that we take that down this year and put these things into actual code, as you've pointed out at the beginning, that this is new, and we had a difficult time comparing it to last year because it's new.
Well, in a lot of ways, they are related, but they're definitely separate. I mean, with what Deborah's tasked with is a completely different animal.
Right.
Managing HUD is, I was in that seat, I know. It is extremely rigid, it is extremely reporting intensive,
Right.
and
Time
monitoring
consuming.
intensive. And so they are related, but they're different, far different. And, I'm going to be out there, not in dress shoes, but in boots, walking the streets with these guys and gals, and, trying to tackle, just like we did on the land bank, we're trying to get some of that right. So it's related, but it's very different. And so...
I would see it given that you're managing an enterprise fund and code enforcement, I would see this as almost as related as those two.
Okay.
And having us meet on a quarterly basis together will be so much helpful, beneficial. When we go to the community meetings, neighborhood watches, and, all working together, we'll be able to be in the know. So.
Yes, I want you to have the answers so that when somebody says, what are they doing, or why are they doing this? Well, actually, last quarter they tackled, 100 properties or what. It's like the land bank. We have a measure for that. We've tackled so much blight in the last couple of years. It was over 100 homes. We need to have that transparency with this, and that's the same kind of transparency you get with the loan activity. You see what I do. You see when it comes through the first time, but then you see it on the quarterly report too. So I'm looking forward to it. I think it'll be a good year.
Just changing topic for a second. A young lady called me, says she has an idea of starting a business. And she asked me who she should contact. I kind of sidestepped her and I told her to call Gannon, a small business group where they can sit down and get a business plan. But who would be the contact person here?
Well, that would be me.
I figured that. But I didn't want to throw your name out unless I talked to you.
I meet with folks all the time. We started this initiative last month with the New Americans, Brother D and myself and Saeed. First cohort, I think we had 30 people in the room. I don't remember how many we had.
Yep.
We have another one scheduled for January. And instead of telling them what programs are out there, I actually gave them my underwriting list. And gave them a heads up in advance, but the point of this was, I want you to walk out of here knowing what you need to do to get an approval. I don't want you to have a menu of programs. It's useless. I want you to, if you follow 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, you're going to get approved. Because the question is, well, I hear this person got it, why can't I get it? Well, this person went through this journey, that's why. So I'm going to give you a roadmap to the journey. And I think it went well. We're going to do it again in January. And we did that with Paramount Pursuits and a few others. I presented to a cohort with Bishop Quinn's group. And the feedback has been positive. They're given specific steps. If you want to get funded and you want to get support, this is what you need to do. So we're going to keep that going in next year too.
Thank you. Does anyone else on council have questions for Mr. Chris Groner? I know he's more than willing to sit down with people who want to have the roadmap to start their business, because he's done it for me in the past. He sat down with someone who reached out to me wanting the answers, so he's definitely the contact person. And I'm happy that there's going to be a large class in January to help people who have been definitely growing our local economy with the new businesses they're starting. Just in the last 2 or 3 years, we've seen a jump, so that's great for our city.
We did that with a couple from Cleveland last year.
We did.
They bought a house on 9th Street this week.
Nice. That's awesome. That's great.
That's great. Yep.
Thank you,
I still
everyone.
talk with them on occasion.
Have a good night.
Thanks.
Thank you.
What are we doing next Tuesday?